Hello, and welcome back to another edition of Potluck, your everything and anything talk and entertainment TV show. My name is Laura Hartman, and I am your host. Today, I'm making an announcement that I am stepping down as the main host of Potluck and handing the cap over to a very talented man who's been on our show before, the talented Erik Kristopher Myers. So welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much. And you literally gave me the cap right before we started filming.
Right. So you are going to bring a new, fresh look and feel to the show.
That's what I've been told.
That's your plan.
That's the mandate.
Are you just gonna go with it on a whim, or do you have some ideas in mind to do stuff?
I don't know. It's kind of fun to sort of experiment with structure and form. So I'm just going to come in here, take it case by case. A lot of really, really cool people in the DMV to talk to about a variety of subjects, and I feel that that sort of informs a lot of how things roll.
Okay, great. Well, you're going to enjoy working with all the volunteers. They've been just amazing. I've been doing this for over 8 years, and it's been a great ride. So I'm gonna miss it. I'll come back and guest host when needed, but for now you're gonna take it on and have fun with it.
I gotta imagine that's kind of a big transition for you. I mean, if you've been doing this that regularly, I think the first time I was on was 2011.
Yeah, and I was just starting out back then.
Nice.
Yeah. So, and you've been on the show like 3 times.
This is number 3 right now.
Yeah. Okay, or number 4 because you came on with everybody from Roulette.
I don't know. You lose track.
This is
time.
number 4.
But it's a good show, and you're right. It is a good crew, and everybody has a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a great time, and it's always fun to interview people. But anyway, about you, you have an extensive background in television. You're an amazing writer. Yes, you are.
Thank you.
And director, and you've done film and television. So tell us, give the audience a little background about yourself.
Well, that's kind of the crazy part is that, I sort of feel that typically I'm the behind the camera guy. So being asked, by which I mean, when I say asked, I mean, I was told I was going to be doing this. I wasn't yet. It was just sort of like, hey, you're going to do this. And it was like, okay, cool. I'm usually the behind the camera sort of guy. So this is a very different thing for me. Lots and lots of, I've done plenty of interviews and whatnot.
Sure,
I've done guest hosting on podcasts and stuff like that. But
it'll definitely give you a different perspective from this side.
Yeah.
This angle.
Yeah. It is a whole other can of worms. Typically, directing films and writing articles and things of that sort. So I'm cautiously optimistic.
Okay.
I think it'll be fun. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
So let's talk about your involvement with autism.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. Your son has autism.
Yes, he does.
And explain to people like what autism is and what people, when their children are developing and they start seeing signs or what to look for, what can they do?
Well, they call it a spectrum, and that's absolutely accurate because just like no two people are the same,
right.
No two people with autism are the same. And so, it's a wiring in the brain that can result in all sorts of alternative behaviors. A lot of overstimulation based on lights and sounds and feelings of intense claustrophobia. It can affect speech. It can affect the way that information is processed, and there are a number of sort of signs to look out for. When you're dealing with a very small child. In the case of my son, he was delayed in many respects. He wasn't speaking when his peers were. Walking, he did that very, very late. Was spinning in circles and stacking blocks and things like that. And so we had him evaluated. Turned out he was on the spectrum, and it sort of changed, his life for the better in the sense that we were able to get him into an early intervention program and get him services that he needed. So he did begin speaking, and he was able to socialize, and he is in mainstream first grade now. But
how old? I'm sorry. How old was he when you first discovered that he was delayed in all this?
It was just after his 2nd birthday.
Okay.
And I was seeing a lot of the warning signs, for about 6 months prior to that. But that was the time that I was able to get him in to be seen and evaluated. And I mean, just getting him into the right programs and getting him surrounded by the right people made him take off, like a shot. And that was also, an opportunity for me to be able to look and see what services he was receiving, reinforce those things in the home. And, the more that I became involved, with being much more hands-on than I expected to be as a parent.
Okay.
I mean, you're always going to be hands-on as a parent, but then suddenly you realize there's more that's required of me.
Right.
That made me want to be able to, give back to our community at large.
Okay. So where did you look to find the information that you needed to get involved with your community?
A lot of Facebook groups, social media, just in general. I just ended up joining. When something like this happens, it changes every aspect of your life, right down to your social structure. The sorts of people that you hang out with, the relatability that you have with other parents or other friends or what have you. And so I ended up joining some Facebook groups, and I saw calls for volunteers to do various things, and so I just began volunteering.
Okay, and who do you volunteer for?
Well, I started off mentoring filmmakers on the spectrum, and I did that for a while, and I still continue to do that. And I also began volunteering for the Howard County Autism Society, which ultimately led to an offer to join their board of directors. So as of 2018, I'm on the board, and I'm able to get, more deeply embedded.
Sure.
Do more.
Now, do all counties, like in the United States, offer that kind of a program?
Not all counties.
Not all,
sometimes it's a wider net.
Okay.
But Howard County Autism Society has been around this is the 26th year.
Oh, wow.
One of the very cool things, one of the great things that they did, and a whole laundry list of great things they've done, is AMC Movie Theaters has what is called their sensory screenings. So on Saturday mornings, what they do is they show whatever the big release movie is of the week, and they have a special screening where the lights are kept somewhat up, the sound is turned somewhat down. Individuals who are on the spectrum and their families can come out and do just what anybody else would do.
Right.
But they have the latitude to be able to get up and walk around if they need to, or whatever it is that they need to do to be able to enjoy that experience.
Wow.
And not in any way, sort of affect other people wanting to be able to go to a movie, or have, other people irritated with them. So it's a great opportunity, and Howard County Autism Society actually is directly responsible for this nationwide event that happens every week.
That's amazing. I had no idea, and I know people that have kids who are autistic, and I've never heard anything. But wow.
As a filmmaker, that's particularly gratifying for me because
great.
I love to be able to take my son to the movies.
Sure.
And that was something I was worried I wouldn't be able to do.
Okay.
Now I'm to the point where I can take him to a standard screening of whatever.
Right.
But the sensory screenings were really that sort of gateway.
Okay, so it helped him to kind of build up to that.
He needed to, he needed to acclimate. He needed to realize, do I need to wear my noise canceling headphones or whatever that was, and also just learn, theater etiquette and whisper your questions and stuff.
Right.
Things like that.
Oh, that's awesome. So, for counties that are maybe out there that don't offer that, or would it be ideal for somebody, maybe a parent, to find out from other counties and maybe start their own?
Yeah, I mean,
is there like a national autistic
there are various
organization?
Groups. There are various groups, and the thing with Howard County is that it started out exactly what you were saying. It was a grassroots organization made up of parents in a living room, who decided, hey, we need to make some opportunities, available.
Sure.
We also need to, not just for our kids who might be on the spectrum, but we need to be able to have our social unit. We need to be able to have other friends and parents that we can talk to and get together and who understand this world that we're in. And so those opportunities always exist. To be able to start a new group, start a new organization. But speaking for myself, I live in Baltimore, and there's some great stuff going on in Baltimore. But Howard County is where I'm from, and it's who I work with.
Okay. Now I have a question because not too long ago I heard in the news there was some kid who was autistic that was being bullied. So is that a big thing? Do parents talk about that type of stuff? Do these kids that are autistic, whether they're like on, it doesn't matter which spectrum, do they get picked on?
Yeah, I mean, I think bullying is an issue everywhere, anytime, regardless. I mean, I was bullied when I was, in middle school because I read Spider-Man comics. You millennials have no idea how easy you got it now. But no, I mean, bullying is a problem across the board. But I mean, I definitely think that it's exacerbated when you're dealing with children who are very clearly different.
Yeah.
And just from where I stand, I mean, I could be on my soapbox or, just trying to educate people and, spread a little bit of kindness around. And I think that's the chief way, that if you're able to, when children are very small and they're still malleable, before we learn to dislike one another for, the color of skin or whatever the asinine reason might be,
right.
To educate children early on, that we are different. We all, some of us look different. Some of us communicate in different ways. Some of us are wired differently.
Right.
And, to teach a little bit of love and respect and empathy. Okay.
So I have a question because a few months back I discovered I did a DNA test on Ancestry and 23andMe. And anyway, I found a distant cousin who I started emailing with because he's from part of a family that I'd been like trying to search and was not having much luck. But he had told me that he's probably like in his 40s, and he recently discovered that he has had Asperger's all his life.
Sure, right.
So, there are probably a number of adults out there that may not realize or recognize that they were probably on the border of being autistic or have Asperger's or whatever. So do you find that? I mean, do you have like adults that get involved in, in Howard County or any other like Facebook groups and stuff?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a process that is ongoing in the sense that, you hear about the autism epidemic, for example, and now the numbers are going up. I don't think it's necessarily that the numbers are going up. It's that the ability to identify is, we're able to, sort of tighten that focus.
Sure.
And so as we are able to spot it sooner, we're able to make that more of an issue of public consciousness. But that's also making folks from, the previous generation or the generation prior to that go, no one knew what to look for with me. I was just an odd duck, I was just, I was different. But, as we become more aware of what those sort of, signs are and what those behaviors are, there are plenty of parents who start, or just adults who are going, hey, maybe I should look into this. Maybe I should have myself evaluated. It's not necessarily going to do anything, that necessarily changes who I fundamentally am at this point in my life.
Right.
But there's something nice, I guess, in knowing who you are.
Yeah, it can probably answer a lot of questions of why stuff was like the way that it was.
Sure, so. And I've known lots of people like that, who just like, I thought I was just weird or different, or I had trouble making friends, and and weird based on what what other people think of you.
Okay.
But it's the same way that we're all just different people with our own quirks and our own chaos, and everybody is different in their own way, and it's the same thing with anybody who's on the spectrum as well. It's just they have their own quirks and their own chaos, and we just need to learn to understand that and to better our communication.
Yeah, and educate.
Absolutely.
So I have a friend who she has a son who's in junior high, and she's in Fairfax County, and I know like Fairfax County and Montgomery County are they're fantastic school systems. Supposedly, some of the best in the country. But yet, there are a number of kids who have learning disabilities or are autistic or whatever. Her child is on the borderline of autism, and she has been struggling just to keep her child afloat in school because the school is just not giving the right attention.
Sure, right.
And so she's now taking some legal action, and actually they're going to be moving away to a better, like down south to an area where she'll have probably a smaller group that can pay better attention. I think up here it's just so many kids. I think it's just overwhelming. But what do you do? Have you met anybody that's been in that scenario, and do you have advice, or are there people that they can turn to? Because I mean, your son's still young, but as he gets older, and if you put him into public school system, it might be, it could be a little bit harder.
It is a challenge, and I mean, this is one of the chief things that you'll hear parents, expressing frustration over, is exactly what you're saying, in that, the public school systems aren't always prepared to be able to, give each student
Right.
the specific care and attention that they need, or perhaps certain services are mandated and there isn't the follow through. Lots of reasons for that, whether that's that the educators are understaffed, or there isn't the proper training, or
Sure.
there's a focus on the students who have more extreme sort of cases and symptoms versus he or she can get by.
Right.
It's a very frustrating thing, and you can hire an advocate to come and help you fight for your cause. You can get a lawyer if you need to. You can move to another school district and go somewhere else. It depends on the case and the situation, and I have found, speaking for myself as a parent, that the best thing that I can possibly do is learn to advocate for my child. And
Okay.
you got to be mama bear, you got to be papa bear. You got to go in and
Right.
say, if my kid's not getting what he or she needs, I have to be prepared to fight for that.
Right. But I mean, she's been doing that, and I know it's just, and she's giving her all. It's taken a lot out of her, and it's affected her job, and just, the whole family dynamic. So it's just, it's a struggle.
It is a struggle, and
education in this country is not as it should be.
Agreed. And the alternative is, I'm going to send little Johnny or little Mary to a expensive private school or whatever, and
Not everybody
that's
can
just
do that.
beyond the means for many.
Yeah.
I've had my own share of issues with the public school system, just in the portion of this journey that I've taken myself. I have overall been very happy with what services my son has received, what
Okay.
we as a family have been able to experience. I realize there are a lot of people who aren't quite so fortunate and have had a much rougher time of it.
Right.
And unfortunately, there are no easy answers for that.
Sure.
It's an ongoing process of, as you were saying, education and advocacy, and in some cases having to stand up and say, no, this is unacceptable.
Okay. So what are there any new insights or any plans for your Howard County Autistic Society? Do they, or rather, what are the types of things that they do for kids, in the community?
All sorts of events, the opportunities for socializing, also education, as you were saying before. A whole wide range of services. And in fact, I encourage everybody that's watching this right now to check out howardcountyautism.org. The website is filled with everything that we do.
Okay.
Personally, a lot of what I do is involved with social groups, but we also work to try to help transition, for young adults who are looking to live on their own or live in sort of group areas or what have you, employment, things like that. So
Okay.
it's an all-purpose network for parents and for family members.
Okay. Are there any? I have a cousin who she's got three, sons, two in college and one who's in high school, and they've all been homeschooled. Highly, I mean, they've been part of a homeschool community down in Texas, and they all did great socializing, and and education probably better than the school systems because they're now in some really good colleges. So, do they have anything like that, like around where you are for kids with autism?
Like homeschool sort of groups?
like homeschool, like a homeschool community.
I can't say I'm aware of it. It's
Okay.
possible. Again, different cases are more extreme than others, and so I think that parents who would pull their kids out of school and want to educate them themselves, but then by that same token be able to take them out to do social activities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on the case, I guess.
Okay.
I can't say I've had a lot of experience with that myself.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, they had a big community, so it was a good, not like huge, but it was enough to where the kids got the quality education that they needed.
And that's the case with a lot of homeschool groups where, parents decide they're going to keep their kids, at home, but then they still have all sorts of, classroom-based exercises and field trips and stuff like that.
Exactly.
I guess that's really up to the parent to decide individually what they're going to do, but also to network with the right people and build whatever their local community is going to be.
Sure. So what are like the biggest challenges with these groups and with Howard County? What are the biggest challenge, like the biggest thing, like the biggest learning lesson, or the biggest thing that really needs attention?
It's always funding. I think it's always going to be funding when you're dealing with nonprofits or what have you, because there's so much that you want to do, there's so much that you're able to do, and so it's constantly trying to make sure that we're out there and we're building awareness and we're building our network and getting as much support as we possibly can. And we've gotten some really, really great support. We do a charity walk/run every fall at Centennial Park in Columbia. We've had a lot of local government who have supported us, local businesses, radio stations, TV. A lot of people that have gotten behind us, and that's key. Helping us get our voice heard.
So that's amazing. So internationally, are there any groups that you reach out from other countries? Sometimes you can learn things from other countries that maybe they may be ahead of what we're doing over here, or vice versa.
I can't say I've had a lot of experience with that. I haven't looked too deeply into that.
I guess you're too so involved with just your community, but.
Yeah, and it's an interesting thing. I mean, you raise an interesting point. I can say specifically, for myself though, it's been a lot of sort of focusing on, what's going on right here. What am I able to, what change am I able to make, sort of here? But I would love to be able to, widen that net, as I'm sure we all would.
Right. Yeah, well, I was just wondering because, on the internet with Facebook and stuff, if there were, international groups that, like you guys can kind of interact and see.
And I have been in touch with some groups in Germany. Germany in particular, I had 2 or 3 groups reach out to me and asked to share some of the writings that I'd done on the subject, and which was very cool and very exciting for me, just to realize that it had gone across the water like that.
Right. So how do you find the time to do all this with a full-time job, family, where you have to really pay close attention and have a lot of hands-on, and then your community work, and then you're going to be the new host of Potluck, and your film, Butterfly Kisses and Roulette, and any other new movies coming up how do you do it?
A lot of coffee. A lot of coffee. You've got to do the things that you love in life, and I'll sleep when I'm dead. But there's just so much to see and do and to experience, and I'm one of those people who I'm constantly complaining that I don't get enough time to just sort of decompress.
Sure.
But the moment that I sit down, I start getting antsy and I start looking for something to do, and I don't want to just play video games and occupy myself. I want to get out there and get my hands dirty
and do something, make a dent.
Right, whether that's doing something that's volunteer oriented, or I'm making a movie and trying to make somebody laugh or make them scare themselves silly, whatever that is.
Right.
I'm one of those. I'm an aggressively type A personality.
Okay, so have anybody from your autistic groups online or in your county seen your latest film documentary, Butterfly Kisses?
I haven't asked. That's a really, really good question. I haven't asked.
Okay.
I'm the sort who I tend to feel that I'm bordering on narcissism if I'm talking about myself too much, which is ironic that I'm sitting here doing exactly that. But I tend not to talk about my films or anything like that with casual friends or with business acquaintances,
sure,
or what have you. Sort of dig deep with other fellow artists and creative types. as we're, sort of dissecting what one another does, it's the whole peer review sort of thing.
Sure.
But yeah, no, I haven't asked anyone, to be very honest with you.
Okay, well maybe after if they see this, they'll ask you.
Yeah, well, maybe I'm afraid of the answer.
Oh, no, I'm sure it's, I haven't seen it, but I know, like, the trailers I've seen, it's very good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
And based on what you did with Roulette, it's got to be amazing.
Well,
so,
thank you. I know you were a big supporter of that movie. I think Butterfly Kisses is a better film, but that's
okay. Well, I'm sure it is. I know Roulette kept me thinking for days about it. So I'm sure Butterfly Kisses will do the same.
And your quote about that is actually on the Roulette Blu-ray.
Oh, awesome! Very cool. So, what are your plans for this next year as far as like film, TV, things to do with your son,
I'm trying to spend the rest of 2018 getting a little bit of sleep. I can use a little bit of sleep. Okay. But, 2019, fresh start. And, I have other films I'd like to make.
Okay.
I have other long-term projects. And, when you make a movie, it's a process of, 2 or 3 years. It's a marathon.
Right,
right. So, trying to, sort of architecturally lay out the foundation for a number of projects. And
okay.
do them the right way, which
okay.
involves a lot of planning.
And have you written anything that may come into become a movie?
I have. I've written a couple of things, and right now it's just sort of seeing, what I have the means and the money to be able to make next.
Okay, great. Well, we're out of time now, so thank you so much for coming on the show, and thank you so much for becoming the new host of Potluck. So, if you're just tuning in now, make sure you catch us on the web at www.potluck-online.org. And if you want to find out more about Erik Kristopher Myers, you can go to Potluck and check out some of the previous interviews with him, or do you have your Butterfly Kisses website?
Facebook.
Facebook? Okay.
Twitter. Just type in Butterfly Kisses. You'll find me.
Okay, and Myers is M-E-Y.
M-Y.
Oh, M-Y. Sorry, M-Y-E-R.
I'm used to
Sorry,
it.
I'm a visual person, so I have to see.
I have a feeling that whoever's watching this right now is going to see the name at the bottom.
Thank
of the
you,
screen.
and we'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.